On the line, the minority whip Republican from Louisiana. And Congressman, great to have you on. I want to talk to you about this new panel that's being put together on coronavirus that the majority leaders put together. And you're the top guy on it. Tell us what we need to know.
Well, what we need to know is that, first of all, our main focus should be on helping Americans get back to work and finding a way to get the economy reopened safely as soon as possible with consistent standards across the board. Something else we should be doing, Alex, is focusing on holding China accountable. For whatever reason, this is not something that Speaker Pelosi has been focused on. She just doesn't seem to want to go after China, to go after some of the things that they've done, not only to hide this from America, from the rest of the world, but also how we have over decades allowed our national security to drop by having so much of the vital information in the supply chain move over to China for things like PPE, for 90% of our generic drugs that are now made in China. This is something that we ought to be focusing on in Congress. She hasn't been having that same focus, and that's something that we should be doing. So, I know they've got this fixation with just wanting to go after President Trump every single day. The impeachment attitude that they've had from the day that they took the majority. It's something that's got to stop. The public's tired of it. They want us to work together to help them, to be working for families that are struggling right now, not to just have this constant fixation with attacking the president and his family and his cabinet. Enough is enough.
So one thing here that is fascinating is that while you and I and many people right of center, and really actually many people who are even apolitical, understand that this is a Chinese virus and it came from China, and at a minimum China withheld information, and at worst they potentially even kind of let it spread and then lied about it. If you're charitable, they were irresponsible. If you're charitable, and of course I think that what they did was much more heinous than that, and yet the focus, Congressman, seems to still be on the president, and the Democrats are going to investigate the president as if the president, it's a global pandemic. The entire world has had outbreaks. Virtually every country's got it, aside from a handful of island nations. And we're going to act like this is the president's fault. And that's the time we're going to spend. And this is where our tax dollars and the Democrats' efforts are going to go to it. So is your committee, the new committee, is it more designed to try to determine China's culpability? Is it more determined to try to play defense against the Democrats? What do you have to do?
Well, it's clear that when Speaker Pelosi set it up, she designed it to attack the president. You've got other committees all throughout Congress, multiple oversight committees, inspector generals at every federal agency, and including with all the new programs that were set up, that can look and see how the money's being spent. Everybody understands that we want to make sure the money's being spent properly. So if that was what she was interested in, those committees already exist, and she appointed the chairs of those committees. If they're not competent, Nancy Pelosi can remove them, but that's not what she wanted. She wanted a committee that literally with subpoena powers can just continue trying to attack the president. And look, again, people are tired of this. They don't want to see a rehashing of the whole impeachment hoax. You were just talking about some of the things that are coming out on how Flynn was set up, how the Department of Justice is really getting aggressive at looking into the things that happen at the FBI. Starting when Barack Obama and Joe Biden, by the way, Joe Biden was vice president when this stuff was going on, when they started trying within the FBI, you had some dirty cops, and most FBI agents do great work for our national security, but there were some dirty cops over there who were trying to use their position of power to take down a candidate for president of the United States and Donald Trump. Their motivations are known now. Devin Nunes and his committee and Jim Jordan and others have been exposing this for years, and it's finally coming to fruition, coming to a head. And they set up Flynn. They tried to ruin this guy's life to get him to go after other people and lie about other people, and he didn't do it. And now at least he's been exonerated. But the people over at the FBI that did this are still around. They need to be held accountable. People need to go to jail for what they did, and no one should ever do this again, whether it's a Republican candidate or a Democrat candidate. Nobody should have to worry that you've got people within law enforcement that are going to abuse their power to try to subvert the will of the American people. And that's what they tried to do, and something has to be done about it. And I think it will. I think you can see what Attorney General Barr is doing, getting this put in place, but it's time. It's time that this come to a head.
Yeah, I think it is too. So the committee is looking like at this point sort of an impeachment 2.0. I think that's the words that people have looked at. Could it really get that bad? Could it really get to the level, do you think, where we could be going through these pointless hearings where we all know the outcome, but we're all forced to waste tens of, not hundreds of hours on it?
You have to expect that. Pelosi's never closed the door on impeachment. The first time, she never closed the door on impeachment. Another time, as long as they've got a majority and Donald Trump's in office, you can bet that they're going to abuse those positions of power to continue attacking this president and his family instead of trying to work with him on behalf of the American people that we're all elected to represent. That should be our focus, is trying right now to help pull together to get this country back on its feet, to get our economy opened again, and help people safely get back to work. And we can do that if we were all focused on it. It would happen more wide scale, too, by the way. You're seeing some states open up, Alex, with good success. People are ready to get out. I mean, look at the lines. People are waiting an hour and a half to get their hair cut in states where they can do it. And then there are other states that are continuing to keep things shut down. So if there are safe ways for people to get out again, we ought to be helping make that happen all across the country. And that's not been Nancy Pelosi's priority from the beginning. It's been attacking the president. And, oh, by the way, trying to rewrite history, because when the president did good things for this country, like, say, we're not going to let flights come in from China as we're starting to learn about this virus that China created, Nancy Pelosi was criticizing him for doing it. She actually brought a bill to the House floor in the middle of this pandemic breaking out worldwide that would stop the president from securing America's borders, including flights from China and other countries. This was outrageous, but that's what her focus was. And if they think they can rewrite that history, they got another thing coming, because there are those of us who remember it, and people like you are going to continue reminding the country what they did.
Congressman Steve Scalise, Minority Whip, he's going to be the top Republican on this new impeachment 2.0 committee. And you probably have your work cut out for you, because if the president wins, and I think he's still in the driver's seat, though I think that there's a lot to be determined between now and November. Who's to say this won't continue to go on? I think very well, if the Republicans win and the Democrats keep the House, I think they will come up with a way to impeach the president again. He'll be the first president impeached twice. So this is going to be a big effort. So what do you give me sort of your top line issues or items that you're going to employ when you're leading this committee?
Well, clearly, continuing to stick with the facts on any of the things that we confront or what we're going to be focused on. And, we've got great members on this committee. Jim Jordan, of course, knows better than anybody how to stay focused on the facts. He was one of the best people during impeachment to remind everybody when, whether it was Adam Schiff or Nadler or anybody else that would go out there and make these false allegations against the president. The press would pick up on it most times, and the headline would be some salacious, misleading story that was proven to be false later in the day, and then that, for whatever reason, wouldn't get reported. But Jim Jordan really understands how to stick with facts and stay focused on what's in front of us. You've got people like Jackie Walorski, who understands tax policy inside and out. You got Mark Green, who's a medical doctor, by the way. It's going to be good to have a doctor and somebody who actually works in the medical field when we're dealing with a pandemic, and whether it's Republican or Democrat, he's the only member of the committee that actually has that medical background. So Blaine Lukemeyer really understands the financial services industry from top to bottom, and he's going to be doing a great job on this committee as well. We've got people that really understand how to get the facts out, how to work together to make sure that we're trying to help families. I thought the focus of what we should be doing in this should be Republican and Democrat together working for people, working to help families. That's not been the focus of Nancy Pelosi. It's been to try to undermine the president every step of the way. And again, the facts don't back that up. The president's done a great job. He's working hard every day. He's out there when Nancy Pelosi won't bring Congress back. The president's out there with the vice president working hard for the American people. We should all be doing that.
Congressman Steve Scalise, there'll be a lot of people rooting for you. Hope it doesn't take too long. It's my only hope.